Heading north from Longmont, Colorado, my sights were set on Chimney Rock, Nebraska. I first saw it from many miles away. After months of weary travel, those heading west by covered wagon longed to see this famous landmark on the horizon. On clear days, it could be seen from as far as 50 miles away, which translated to days before they would reach it. For me, it took about 15 minutes from first sight to drawing up close by. I went to the Chimney Rock Visitor Center. Inside, there was a lot of good information about the pioneer days and this highly sought-after landmark. I walked around on the trails and enjoyed several hours of picture taking. From Chimney Rock, I headed to the nearest town, which was about 5 miles away. Bayard had a population of just over 1,000. I had read online that the first 2 nights were free at the Bayard City Campground. I wondered about that as I backed up to an electrical hookup. I plugged in and my batteries started charging. How wonderful! I fell in love with Bayard. In the morning, I woke to the sound of the corn crop next to the campground being irrigated. Like so many small towns in the United States, it had seen its hard times. The sugar beet factory, which had been the main income generator for the town, had closed around 12 years earlier. After an explosion and a damaging fire in the factory, it had not been rebuilt. Main Street now had its share of abandoned shops. I walked the length of the town a number of times during my stay. Walking by the United Methodist Church, I saw that it had closed shortly after the factory accident. In the town museum, I learned, like many small towns, there was no shortage of churches. Looking through a scrapbook, I came across a bulletin for a dedication service at the United Methodist Church led by Bishop Rimes Moncure, a very close friend of mine. Walking around town, I had been surprised to see a Greek Orthodox church in such a small town. I asked the woman volunteering that day at the museum. Her name was Hinkle. She knew all about it. It was where she was married and her children were baptized. In fact, it was her Greek immigrant grandparents who had built it. Their jobs with the railroad had brought them to the town. Freight trains still roll through the town every hour, night and day. However, passenger train service was a dim memory. The lovely town park was across from the campground. In the afternoon, I made a cup of masala chai and enjoyed it as I watched the wind gently blow the corn crop tassels. Like other small towns I have known, the newest looking building was the bank. Ms. Hinkle told me that the grocery store, which had closed during the pandemic, had just recently opened again. I helped out by buying $22.35 of spices for making my Indian supper that night. I also contributed to the town by purchasing a meal and later on an ice cream cone at one of the remaining eating establishments in town. I was gone during the day, but had I stayed in town at the Senior Citizen Center, I could have had a pork fritter with mashed potatoes and gravy, green beans, and a roll, and for dessert, banana pudding and vanilla wafers. Oh yes, and V8 juice. The full menu was on display on Main Street. The gas station was self-service, but the office was closed when I went by. The small park in the middle of the town was beautiful and very well tended. I also visited Scott's Bluff, another landmark that the wagon trains long to see on the horizon. Its visitor center had a wealth of information about the life of the pioneers and the life of the Native Americans who were pushed off their homelands as homesteaders in overwhelming numbers took over their lands. Heading to Scotts Bluff, we were reminded frequently that we were on the route of the Oregon Trail. It was the covered wagons of the Oregon Trail and the California Trail that both went through Scotts Bluff. You can drive up to the top of the bluff, and I did. Up there are two lovely walking trails from where you can see miles around. Having enjoyed seeing these two famous landmarks, I headed further north to the Black Hills of South Dakota.